torture. Cheryl, what are you even talking about right now?
Stuffed animal.
How's it going, Melissa?
Going good. Oh, there, I'm unmuted. Pretty good. How are you?
Good, thanks. All right. I figure I'll get all the members on first to make sure everything's going okay, and then I'll have the public join.
Hello.
Jim might not make it till like 8, I saw.
Okay.
Jeez, every time I go away from the screen, I lose the video. What a pain in the butt.
How's it going, Janine? Ted, how you doing?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us here.
No, you're welcome, and thanks for understanding that it's okay if I back out after this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No problem.
Hours and hours and hours every day looking at this thing. It gets.
I wasn't expecting to see you.
I'm sorry?
I wasn't expecting to see you.
Well, there's the request was, and it makes sense, that I sit in on the Franklin Solar, the long-term one, so that when it comes time to a vote, I'm still vote eligible.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any official thing I need to do after the Franklin Solar, or do I just politely check out?
Yeah, you can check out.
Well, there doesn't have to be an official, I am Ted and I am checking out.
Yeah, so, hey, Anna, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So Ted is going to be with us for the Franklin Solar, and then he's going to drop off after that, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Don, were we expecting everyone?
Jim was running late.
And, right, so Jim's running late.
Like 8 o'clock, I thought he said he'd try.
Okay. I'll give it another minute. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Good, Jeff. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Now, were you able to get in on the agenda? Is that how you tried?
I did. It took me a couple tries, but I got in.
All right, so nothing like last week, right?
No.
Good.
I had no trouble with the agenda link, Don.
That's so funny. It was weird.
I came in off the calendar. I didn't try the agenda, so.
Yeah, I came in through a web meeting calendar and I had a problem, but Josh gave us some suggestions, so we tried it on this one. So hopefully no one will have a problem.
All right, Don, why don't we call the meeting to order? It's a little after 7. If the other members join, I'll just, I'll let them come in and then give Anna the heads up that they're joining. So just as an administrative item, I got to read the script for the remotely conducted open meetings to get started. So as a preliminary matter, this is Jeff Barnes, the chair of the Hopkins Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda for the May 19th, 2020 meeting are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Melissa? Janine?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Ed is joining us now. Okay, so staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Don McAdam?
Present.
Anna Rogers?
Present.
And Matt Varell with Lucas.
Present.
And Matt is with us. He's on mute. Good evening. This is the open meeting of the Hopkins Conservation Commission. It's being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we are complying with the executive order that suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The executive order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as the public body makes provisions through adequate alternative means to ensure interested members of the public are provided reasonable access to the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless each such participation is required by law. This meeting of the Hopkins Conservation Commission will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting is also being broadcast by HCAM through one of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. The meeting supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town website via the web meeting calendar. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will invite members to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking, and please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after the members of the commission have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their name and address. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be by roll call vote. I'll call on each member, at which time you'll state your name and your vote. Okay. So moving along, let me, Ann, I'm adding Carrie now.
Okay.
So she's coming in. And we'll move to our agenda items. So work session items. We had a couple documents for review, Parks and Rec. This is 66B Fruit Street, the determination of applicability. And Hunt, 158 Hayden Row, another determination of applicability. And Don, I think those are all set and ready to go. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got them on the work session folder. Are you able to allow me to share screen? It's saying the host is disabled.
It says the host has disabled it?
Yeah, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Did that work, Don?
Some just came in. Meetings, public meeting screen. No, I'm still disabled, but I don't know what, you just brought up something on my screen.
Let me see. I didn't,
Rats.
yeah, I didn't disengage you from the screen sharing, Don.
Anna, are you able to share screen? On your end, or are you locked out too?
No, it shows that I can.
I've got a host disabled participant screen sharing. Do you want me to try it? You want me to try and leave and come back in?
Yeah, why don't you do that, Don?
All right.
So Anna, I'll just move along on the agenda while Don's relogging in, just going through the work session items.
Okay.
So the new applications that have not been advertised to date, these are the same ones that we went through last week. So it's Maspinock Woods, 5 West Elm Street, a notice of intent. Nation, 6 Leon's Way, which is a notice of intent. Keeley, 60 Pine Island Road, a notice of intent. The Wolf, 28 Lumber Street, an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Bryant, 0 Downey Place, it's a notice of intent. And Vumbaka, 17 West Elm Street, a request for determination of applicability. Okay. Let's give Don another minute here before we move on.
Jeff, can you hear me?
Yep.
It's still saying host disabled participant screen sharing. I'm unable to share my screen.
How do I activate it, Don? Do you know?
I have no idea. We've never seen this window before.
Yeah, because I didn't.
Didn't happen the last 2 meetings.
All right, bear with me.
Jeff, this is Ted.
Yes, Ted.
So I don't know for sure what you're seeing because I'm not a host, but generally next to the green share screen is an up arrow.
Yep.
And if you click on that, you have options about who to allow to share the screen. Should be down at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I did click on that, but what it's bringing up is the information that I have on my window.
Right. Is there a little arrow next to the share screen button? A little up arrow caret?
Yeah.
Just to the right of it?
Yep.
If you click on that, what does it say?
Oh, I'm in. Okay.
I'm going to take the credit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So glad you came, Ted.
I know.
There you go. I've done my part.
So, are you guys able to see the work screen?
We can.
All right. So we've got two documents. You had the both determinations of applicability. Cracking them open now. We basically wrote those up for positive on the delineation and negative because the work was outside the commission's jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, we wrote it up as a negative determination to raise the existing metal detached garage, and we approved building on the existing foundation, with the deck.
Correct. All right. Sounds good. Any comments or questions from the commission? Okay, and then I went through the new applications, Don, while you were signing back in.
Okay, good.
So why don't we just move to the Pulte Homes, the
Sure.
erosion
Yep.
issue.
So if we go into work session, Pulte, post hearing, violations. We'd received a complaint on May 1st, and they sent along these photos. They were walking on the town's land, and they saw sediment hitting this ponded area on the town's land. So I was able to go out on the 14th or the 12th, and I hate when the screen gets in the way. I was able to grab some photos on the 12th. Basically, they had said they originally saw it starting out at the roadway in this area. So as I went through, I didn't see sediment, but as I walked my way upstream through the different the old irrigation ponds,
Right.
I could see it getting more sediment as I moved my way up through the
Don,
area.
Don, just to interrupt you real quick, the map isn't showing up on the screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yep, no problem.
New share. Try that. How was that?
That's the pictures. Got it.
Okay. Yep. So basically, as I just started off just talking about where they had originally started out on East Main Street, and just walked my way up, and I found it getting more sediment laden in each of the irrigation ponds, and then just sort of worked my way up through the woods and started getting thicker and thicker, and got up to the Pulte site here. And on the site plan, the detention basin itself is outside. Rats. I keep putting everything. I've got a file on my desktop, and then I forget. I've got to also do a link for the public. I don't think I put my plan in here. Hold on, it's on my. It gets in the way. If I go into the all the public documents, the link that you guys have.
So did you talk to anyone at Pulte, Don?
Yeah. So I immediately, once I found out, I contacted them. They reached out to Marshanda. Marshanda is working with Beta, because Beta is overviewing the site, because the detention basin itself is outside the commission's jurisdiction. It's the some of the associated grading off the bank, and that's where those erosion controls are. That's where we have jurisdiction. So just cracking open.
Yeah. Because after I saw this, I was out there on Sunday, I think it was Sunday morning or Monday morning. And, it's just my observation that a lot of the erosion controls, the majority of them look like they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
But there are areas where obviously, they've been either damaged or knocked down by the construction activities, so they're not functioning properly. So I think Pulte needs to take a look at that, obviously. Yeah.
This was the area of my pictures where I saw the breach, and then there was some areas along here. Can you guys see the plan?
Yep.
All right. And then there was some areas along here that, the erosion control was in bad shape, but I didn't see any breaching in this area. But this was the area of the breach. this is the edge of the buffer zone right here, so the detention basin is outside. But they need to be obviously addressing the stabilization issue down in here. So didn't know if you guys wanted to have them come in at the next meeting. I know it's probably going to be pretty full, but we could put them on maybe at the end of the night and give you more sense of, because they're working on it now with Beta, trying to make improvements out here so they're not going to run into this again. As far as I know, it was a one-time incident.
Yeah. Why don't we put them on the agenda for the June 9th meeting?
Okay.
And, in the interim, if you can just follow up with them, Don, or
Yep.
have Matt follow up with them and make sure that things are moving along.
Sure.
In a timely fashion. We don't want this to drag out for 2 weeks, obviously.
Yeah, I just gotten an email today from Shonda. They were looking for some more information. I was able to get back to them, so they are being active on it.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Okay, so why don't we open it up to the Franklin Road Solar. This is a continuation of a notice of intent for the solar facility on 0 Franklin Road. I think I saw Mr. Rodriguez is
Yep,
in the audience.
yep, I'm here.
Good to see you again. Do you have someone else with you, or are you solo
No, yeah.
tonight?
No, I have Nick Fasendola from Level Design and Dan Wheeler from Gutter Engineering as well.
Okay. All right. Okay, good to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
So why don't you just, kind of give us an update as to where you are, briefly. And it's been a little while since we've seen you.
Yep.
And, then we can take it from there. Okay?
Yeah, of course.
Mr. Rodriguez, thank you.
So Pedro Rodriguez from Seaboard Solar. Just to give a quick update where we stand in the project. It's been a little while since last time we met with the Conservation Commission. From the interconnection standpoint, since that time, that last time we met, we received our impact study from Eversource. Everything came back positive the way that we expected, and we expect to receive an interconnection service agreement within 2 months. We have also been working directly with the real estate team and the engineering design team from Eversource Gas, and this is in regards to the gas pipe that crosses our property. They have no problem with us crossing the easement with our driveway. They're going to be providing us with the details on the driveway that they want us to follow. So there's no problem in there. As you guys probably know, we have also been working directly with 2 Native American tribes regarding the preservation of historical monuments located in our property. We have been working with the Narragansett tribe and the Wampanoag tribe. The Narragansett tribe already visited the property. We are working on an agreement with them, and they are going to be locating all the ceremonial surveys, creating all the required surveys, and then also coming up with a preservation plan for any monuments. The Wampanoag tribes has not been able to visit the property because of COVID, but as soon as they are able to, we're going to move forward with them as well on the same manner. We have continued to coordinate the preservation of the trails and the open space with HALT. As you guys are going to see, we propose a set of landscaping around the trails in between the fence and the trails that we're going to be preserving. HALT is making comments on the landscape design, the type of trees. So the landscape that we're proposing right now that you're going to be seeing is not final. We also send this plan to the trail committee. They're going to be sending their inputs. And we also receive a series of comments from the planning board and the public last night that we're going to be including as well. And I'm hoping to get some comment from you guys tonight too, so we can revise the plan for the landscaping. Regarding the open space, as I mentioned before, it's being orientation to donate the leftover land in the project parcel for preservation purposes and create an open space and inclusive trail. We proposed or offered to the planning board last night to include that as a condition in our special permit. So we are required to donate the leftover land before the project achieves interconnection. So having the land donation as a condition of the special permit provides a guarantee to the town and neighbors that the open space will be in place, and it also gives a enforcement mechanism to the planning board as well. That's a quick update that I have, and now I'm going to turn it to Nick, that's going to be speaking about the engineering changes.
Yeah, so just real quick, Mr. Rodriguez, how much land was set aside under the open space plan? 35 acres or?
So we have about 45 acres in the parcel in Hopkins, where the project is located, and then we have about 1.8 acres in the Ashland parcel.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. One second. So, Don, you mind if I take control so I can go through and kind of highlight some of the changes that were made and the updates to the plan? It might be easier if I can scroll through and do that from my end.
Who's speaking?
This is Nick from Level Design Group.
Okay, through the chair.
Yep, done. I'm okay with that if you can facilitate it.
All right. Can you guys see this plan?
No.
Okay. It says I'm sharing.
I paused mine. Or I'll stop it.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll try not to go over anything Pedro just went over. Just as a quick update on some wetlands items. We did delineate the BBW located around the existing pond as requested at our last Conservation Commission. Dan Wells from Goddard Consulting did that delineation. We submitted that to review, and I don't believe there was any comments on that delineation. We also have Dan with us tonight who will speak after me regarding this new delineation and the wetland habitat study that he prepared on our behalf. So in addition to the BBW that was delineated, we also identified a potential vernal pool in this area right here. I'll let Dan go into the specifics on the characteristics of the potential vernal pool and what he identified in his findings regarding that area. But we are identifying this on the plan and have shown the associated buffer zone that goes along with that vernal pool.
Yeah.
So on this plan, I don't know if you can see this red line that kind of goes around the edge of the property and down through here. This was our originally submitted limit of clearing, limit of work line. As you can see, we've brought the limit of work for the solar array in significantly along this end of the property here, and this end of the property up here, and along this property line up against the vernal pool no disturb zone. So the previously submitted site plan had a site disturbance of about 28 acres. We're now down to about 23 acres. And system capacity, we've lost about 1 megawatt with these reductions. So we were at a 5 megawatt system, and we're currently at about a 4 megawatt system. So these have been some voluntary reductions on Seaboard's half to preserve the existing trail network, which is shown on this plan in these dashed lines. So there's an existing trail that runs up through here, ties into a trail that originates from the Fawn Ridge Road development comes up through here. So we're maintaining this section of trail. We're maintaining the existing trail, which runs down the center of the gas line easement. That will be remaining open for public access as part of the donated land. With regards to stormwater management, the basins, roughly in the same general locations. We have removed the basin, which was located down in this area, as it was deep into the 125-foot no disturb zone. And with the reduction in clearing and solar array and driveway area, it was determined that that was no longer needed. We've also specified for this existing paved area, all the way up through here, about 110,000 square feet of existing impervious area to be removed as part of the project development. We were previously looking to remove about 15,000 square feet of that, but at the commission's request to remove the entire area, Seaboard has agreed to that. So the impervious area all through here will be removed, and that will be planted with, in the area of the solar array, it's going to be a wildflower pollinator seed mix is what we're proposing right now for the interior of the solar array. And as we get closer to the buffer zones and area within the 125-foot no disturb zone to the vernal pool, we will be doing some mitigation work in that area, removing pavement, and we are proposing some mitigation plantings. Driveway width, after meetings with the Hopkins Fire Department, we've reduced our driveway width to 16 feet. We were originally at 20 feet, so the driveway is 16 feet pretty much throughout the entire property. It's a little bit wider. It remains 20 feet in this area, as this is a tight sweep for an emergency vehicle to make, so we had to keep that at 20 feet. And same thing down here. We had to maintain a wider width, but the remainder of the driveway has been reduced, or the gravel driveway has been reduced to 16 feet wide. Equipment and utilities roughly remain the same. Our main battery storage area and transformers are still located in this area. We have a small equipment pad located in this area, and we also have a third pad located in this area right here, which was previously located in this area. That's been relocated to that area. As Pedro discussed earlier, we are coordinating with the utility company, the gas company, about crossing this area. So we're going to be having a crossing for our underground conduit right through here. It looks like we're going to be doing a surface berm versus utility poles to cross the gas easement. So we are in the process of working out the fine details with Eversource on that, and we're going to be including a construction detail on our revised plans with how we're going to be crossing this area. That utility. Essentially, we're going to do whatever Eversource tells us to do to make that work. Overall, that essentially highlights all the main changes. We've added a few additional plan sheets that kind of highlight our buffer zone disturbance areas. What the existing buffer zone disturbances are. Amount of work that's going to be occurring within the, we are proposing some work within the 125-foot no disturb zone to the potential vernal pool that's shown in this area right here. So this blue hatched area is the 125-foot no disturb zone. So we have a little section of our gravel driveway and some minor grading through there in this little section of panels. I'd like the commission to keep in mind that this line right through here is all existing pavement, which we'll be removing. So this area within the 125-foot no disturb zone is currently paved. So we'll be looking to remove a large portion of this pavement through here and do some mitigation plantings. Show that down through here. So we're going to be, we proposed some plantings. Lucas Environmental did recommend some different types of plantings, which we have no problem complying with. So we'll be making modifications to our proposed mitigation plantings in this area in accordance with the most current letter from Lucas Engineering.
Okay.
Other than that, all the panels are still outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. We, mostly buffer zone disturbance associated with the project. Other than the restoration work, everything is outside of the 50-foot zone. Obviously, in this area, we're going to be doing some restoration work and pavement removal of a pre-disturbed area that is within the 50-foot buffer zone. That's the only place we're dipping into those existing, those buffer zones. There's pre-existing disturbance. Everything else, everything else is essentially grading and a little bit of driveway work within the 75, driveway within 75 to 100 feet of the buffer zone, and the rest is essentially grading is associated with that driveway.
Okay, Nick, what's the area of the asphalt that's being removed again, please?
The area of the asphalt is, let's see, I think I have that in my letter. So a net reduction of 114,319 square feet of impervious coverage.
Okay. And I assume Dan can kind of walk us through the mitigation in a little bit more detail.
Yes. So that essentially covers the proposed upgrades or plan modifications. We can get into the plantings. We're proposing mitigation plantings along this corridor here, mostly for screening purposes. And along this area through here, evergreen plantings for screening to the neighboring residential residences up in this area. So that quickly sums up our plan modifications. Obviously, we'll take questions after, but I'll turn it over to Dan to discuss the
This is the trail.
Okay, great, thank you.
Right on
the other aspects.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So they're just going to buffer it.
Dan?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. So as Nick indicated, I provided some additional BVW flagging on the northeast corner of the property. It was fairly straightforward. The forest, upland forest came down the slope and met up with a small strip of BVW to the west of the large pond. Matt Verrill reviewed those, and I don't believe there's any changes from those flags. The next part was, while I was conducting my habitat evaluation, I investigated the potential vernal pool to the southwest of the project, and that was on March 20th of this year. So while I was in that vicinity, there were calling wood frogs. A considerable portion of the vernal pool is actually off the property, so I didn't go off. I stayed within the property limits, but there were wood frogs calling from inside of the property as well. So I flagged the maximum observed, flooded vernal pool as I saw it on that day, which is pretty much right in the peak season of vernal pool activity. So it's fairly well defined. Those flags are on the flags on the plans reflect the flags I put in the field. So I can't say, I certainly can confirm that wood frogs were breeding in that pond. It's likely there could have been spotted salamanders, but as I mentioned, I didn't do an intensive investigation because of it. Most of the deepest parts of the pool were off property. So in addition to that, I conducted a detailed wildlife habitat evaluation. And so what I looked at was I took the project's limit of work and overlaid that on the edge of buffer zone. And I calculated what I referred to as 5 separate impact areas throughout the project site. Starting in the northeast corner, there's an area that rather small in extent. The next one, what I referred to as impact area 2, it's the part of the buffer zone that surrounds that stream system that traverses through the center of the property. And then further west of that, there's some amount of buffer zone associated with isolated wetland in the northwest corner of the project. So for all of those impact areas, it was fairly uniform, mature forests mixed, dominated by oaks, red maple, and some white pines mixed in. There were no real unique habitat features. In all of those cases, there are, large woody debris objects on the ground. There were some berry-producing shrubs and, food sources from the acorns from the oaks. But there was nothing unique or out of the ordinary from the rest of the surrounding landscape in those areas. The next impact area was the one associated with partially adjacent to that vernal pool. And with this impact area, as Nick described, almost the entire impact area is within existing pavement. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty low in terms of wildlife habitat impacts. Some of it extends a little bit beyond the pavement. And as my report indicates, the edges of that parking lot are pretty much lined with, a mixture of mostly invasive species. So even beyond, up to 10, 20 feet beyond the pavement edge, the habitat being altered is not of high quality to wildlife. That extends back up to the north towards impact area 5, which is a small one, which is in the eastern part of the property. That area was somewhat unique in that it had some very large boulders. It also had quite a bit of invasive species. So overall, it was the unique part of that impact area was the large boulders, which could provide burrows and sheltering habitat for.
What area was that, Dan? I'm sorry.
Impact area 5. I'm referring to.
Okay.
So overall, in a large project like this, and when there's wetlands, particularly a large pond, we know there's turtles, and so the first question would be: do turtles leave that pond and come up and nest in the work area? And because it's almost entirely forested and/or disturbed by pavement, I don't believe there's any turtle nesting habitat. So that's one potential impact that wouldn't occur at this project site. The other, let's focus back on the vernal pool down in the southwest corner. So it's not a particularly large vernal pool, but again, I don't know exactly how large the populations are breeding in that vernal pool, but the majority of the forested habitat surrounding that vernal pool are going to be left undisturbed, and much of that will be in the open space parcel as well. So there's the portion of that impact that's in the 125-foot buffer is essentially non-habitat for wood frogs and other vernal pool species because it's already pavement. Mm-hmm. Let's see, my report pointed out that when you get a large tract of undeveloped forest, there's certain bird species, for example, that rely on forests like this, such as barred owls and scarlet tanagers I mentioned in my report. Overall, the portions of the buffer zone that are being altered in themselves would not significally, cause a reduction in these species. There's going to be, within the open space, there's going to be a considerable amount of mature forest left intact for those forest nesting species. And so that's essentially the gist of the report, is that there's certainly going to be impacts when you're building a project this size, but it's to common wildlife species. The habitat features that are present in these impact areas are not out of the ordinary or uncommon. There's going to be standing dead trees and woody debris surrounding the project site in the open space. So overall, I concluded that this project will not cause a significant impact in wildlife habitat.
Okay. Can you give us just an overview of the mitigation proposed in the area where the vernal pool is?
I know.
Dan?
That's more Nick's design, but if you can focus in on that, what I recommended to Nick was that because there's a vernal pool, the vernal pool amphibians depend on forested habitat adjacent to the vernal pool. So that's why I recommended that we put tree species in there, and rather than just putting shrubs. If ultimately when those tree species, those oaks and maples, mature, they're going to provide leaf litter, and they'll actually provide some actual habitat for the wood frogs and spotted salamanders.
Okay, and obviously the pavement is all going to be removed from that area. And then I think one of Lucas's comments, most recent comments, was just the density of the plantings. I think, we're looking for the density to be a little bit greater than what's proposed. So I think I heard, I can't remember if it was either Nick or Pedro that said that they were amenable to that, but I just wanted to confirm that.
Yes, we'll be, as Pedro said earlier, the landscape plan is still a work in progress. We're meeting with neighbors and taking input from your board, the planning board, and, as I said, the surrounding neighbors. So, we'll definitely incorporate those changes.
Okay, great. All right, so I think, yeah, Matt, sorry, I was just about to ask you if you had any questions, so feel free to jump right in.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess one thing that I had included in my most recent memo was sort of raising the question of, would it be possible to pull all the work out of the 125-foot buffer zone? Especially just looking at the plan, if there's room to shift it, I guess, to the east, where you've got some room where you are proposing some restoration there. If everything got shifted to the east, get out of the 125-foot buffer zone, and then do perhaps more meaningful restoration throughout the whole 125-foot buffer zone. Or, I'll leave that to you, Jeff. I don't want to speak for the commission if that's something that the commission would be interested in.
Yeah, I think so, Matt. I guess the way I'm looking at it, I think that does make sense. If Seaboard is amenable to doing that, I guess that was one of the first things that kind of jumped out at me when I was looking at this portion of the project, was that the arrays were located within the buffer zone in that area. But then after I looked at it and what what was being proposed in terms of mitigation, I'm happy to hear that Seaboard is removing all the impervious asphalt out of that area. That's great, and thank you for doing that. That's a huge benefit from a stormwater perspective and an environmental buffer zone perspective. I'll leave it. I'll let the other members comment. I think, my sense is the number of arrays that are in the buffer zone are fairly small in that area. I think there's 7 or 8 of them. And given the mitigation that's being proposed, in terms of the asphalt being removed, the enhancement to the buffer zone, and the habitat there, I'm inclined to allow it. But again, I'll let the other members speak. But let me just, so that was with regard to the vernal pool. Matt, I'm just going through some of the other comments you had here. So there was the vernal pool, the density of the planting.
The chair?
Yes, Don.
Could I get the screen back from Nick, and I'll post Matt's comments so people could follow along?
Yeah, sorry, Don.
Not a problem, Don. Sorry.
No worries.
So comment number 7, Matt, on the tree
Actually, Jeff,
care.
before you jump down to 7, and comment number 2 was about the alternatives analysis.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. one of the issues that had come up at the first hearing, or one of the questions, I guess, was if the applicant had considered any sort of carport, quote unquote, solar array. And I think that was an expectation that there was going to be some discussion in the alternatives analysis as to whether that was feasible, again, to use more of the existing, paved areas potentially that could still be used as parking lots, but to, again, to minimize the disturbance of the forest, whether that's in buffer zone or anywhere throughout the site. I don't know if the applicant can speak to that.
Sure.
Sure. So with regards to carports over the existing lot for the existing building, technically that lot isn't part of this application, and we didn't feel it'd be appropriate to include that as a viable alternative because that land is not located within the confines of our development parcel. It is owned by Seaboard Solar, and it was purchased, but it is not part of our solar array parcel, and therefore it would be hard to classify that as a viable alternative when it's not part of the area or parcel which the application is currently under.
So Nick, I think we just need to spell that out in the alternatives analysis.
Sure, we can modify that.
Okay. If that's the position that you guys are taking. So I think comment 7, Matt, on the tree line. Applicant clarification regarding plantings. Are they proposing these areas to expand the existing tree line? I guess the applicants can speak to that.
Yeah, Nick, do you know the area I'm talking about?
No, I can't. I'm not visualizing it. I'm sorry.
Don, can you bring the plan back up?
Which plan do you need?
Probably that first one would be good. Can you zoom in sort of in the south, sort of to the west of the existing building? I don't know if it'll show up on this.
Lost my ability to move it.
So it was, I think, sort of in the area west of the building, Nick, where it just showed the proposed tree line was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 feet east of the existing tree line. And I don't know if that was just a typo, for lack of a better term, or something else.
So we're looking the westerly property line where the right here and where that dimension is. I'm still not seeing it.
Hang on a second. Well, in the interest of time, I can follow up with you afterwards, Nick, if you want.
Sure, yeah, that just, yeah, if you could send me a PDF to circle it, it's probably just a minor drafting item we can take care of.
Yeah, it's probably the case.
Okay. All right, so moving along, comment 13, the proposed sequence for the construction. I guess my comment there, Nick and Pedro, is, I understand where you're coming from. My concern is we've had a couple, larger scale projects going on in town where, the site was essentially cleared and denuded prior to, the contractors coming in. And we've run into issues, particularly in, the fall in spring timeframes where we get these heavier rainfalls, you know, and you get the erosion issues coming off the site. So, you know, that's where my thinking is. You know, I just don't want to be in a situation where you guys come in, clear all of the land, and then, you know, we have some, you know, heavy precipitation events where we have, you know, erosion and other issues at the property, which is, again, is something that we've experienced on a few other projects in town. As a matter of fact, we were just discussing one at the beginning of this meeting. So, you know, if you can speak to that, maybe provide us a little bit more detail, not tonight, but, you know, in narrative form, you know, as to how, you know, when you're working on this project, you know, that type of thing is going to be prevented and it won't happen at the site. So you can briefly speak to it now and then, you know, give us some feedback.
Sure. Just to give the commission a general time frame, how these projects, well, the projects I've worked on with Seaboard usually go. You know, tree clearing is the first, you know, we'll go through, set up, install erosion controls, make sure everything's good to go. And then, you know, the tree clearing crew is in, and they're in and out within 3 weeks, Pedro, just about.
All right.
And then right behind them, they start rough grading the stormwater basins and cutting in the driveways. So it's a relatively quick process for site work. Site work, start to finish, is 3 months, maybe 4 months if it goes a little bit long. And then the remainder of that, construction time frame is essentially the panel and racking install crews driving posts. So they'll go through, they'll drive all the posts for the panels, and then they'll come through and set the racking, and then they'll come through and install the panels. So with regards to, I've worked on large subdivisions and commercial projects, and I've seen those types of erosion issues that you discussed earlier. You know, some of those projects take 3 years, 4 years, especially the large subdivisions, as they're selling off lots. They'll come through and they'll cut the site, you know, get the road in partially, and then they'll keep moving on, and construction goes on for years. You know, with regards to this project, you know, they're looking to be closed out within 9 months, have the system, you know, fully energized at that point, with about, you know, 4 month time period for, you know, we'll call it civil work with regards to stormwater management, basins being cut in, and, you know, the grading of the gravel driveway. We did propose a sequence for panel install. So after the site work is done, they'll start at the rear of the site, get the panels and racking in, and then they'll, you know, seed those areas as that racking system is installed, so we can stabilize those areas as quickly as possible, because, you know, they're going to work from north to south and work their way out of the property with the establishing the panels. So we, you know, we're working with you guys on some type of sequencing for stabilizing the site, but it's a tough ask of Seaboard to have the tree clearing crew enter the site 3 times, you know, mobilize 3 times for work that typically takes them 3 weeks in total.
Yeah, we understand that and get it. We just want to make sure that, you know, again, there's not going to be any issues during the duration of the project, and that, you know, you folks are going to be cognizant of that, and, you know, going to put the controls in place so that it doesn't happen, obviously.
Oh, definitely. We'll be working under a NIPD's permit. We'll have a stormwater pollution prevention plan in place. I'm assuming the commission will be making inspections out there. I'll be making inspections, and I believe Beta will be making inspections. So hopefully if any issues do arise or noticed during construction, we can address those prior to them being an issue.
Okay.
One of the good things with the site being cleared is you can pretty much see everything that's going on. You'll know if there's going to be an issue or a washout, after they get the site cleared. So that's our procedure for that. We're going to keep a close eye on things.
Okay. All right. Okay. So comment 16 from Lucas, the detail revised to show the presence of the construction fencing. I think that's pretty straightforward. Comment 19, the regulatory mechanism for future maintenance of perimeter vegetation on the project site. So I think in that situation, we would just put a condition in the order of conditions that, any maintenance that's performed, you just present that to the Conservation Commission prior to the work being done so that we can review it and give our input. All right.
We understand.
Okay. PIBs, so we have a standard condition, for the installation of the PIBs at the project site. I think that's straightforward. Comment 24, Lucas recommends a nurse seed to be installed in conjunction with the proposed seed mixes for the cover and soil stabilization. I think that's fairly straightforward. So that, I think, is the gist of Lucas's comments. And then I went through Beta's comments as well. I think you guys are good to go there. There are a couple that I just wanted to run by you. I don't know if they've been addressed as of yet, but let's just scrolling through them now. So stormwater condition 15. Data's comment was utilize woodland instead of unpaved for shallow concentrated flow of watersheds E1, E2, E3, E4 to more accurately model time of concentration. Also update the TC for watershed P1 to reflect proposed surface conditions. So has that been, Nick?
We haven't formally responded to those. We will be responding to those comments. They're all essentially minor.
Yeah,
I think one section that they're referring to is I modeled the gravel surface independently. So I made sure to break out if stormwater was crossing the gravel driveway. I called it an unpaved surface. I just think that
all right. So there's 4 or 5 of the comments there that I think you guys just need to tie out with Beta. So. We'll look to them to get back to us to make sure that has been taken care of. Okay, so at this point, why don't I just open it up to comments, questions from the other commission members?
Through the chair?
Yes, Don.
Just want to bring one thing to light.
Yep.
This was the bylaw supplement sheet for the original NOI.
Okay.
And sorry, that's the original. This is the revised one, and now I would think they would need a variance request for not meeting the limits of work. And I know they make notes about what's previously disturbed, but I'm having a hard time understanding what is previously disturbed and what's not. And I thought the commission might be like, is the entire 9,402 square feet of the vernal pool previously disturbed? So I would think they might want to give the commission a variance request and flesh out these numbers for the commission's understanding.
Okay, that makes sense. So you guys got that?
Sure. So everything within 0 to 50 is previously disturbed, and we'll put something in writing. But there is, I believe it's C 6.0 in the revised plan set. I broke all those areas down and highlighted them on the plan, and there's like a little legend attached to it. So it's all there, but I'll put it in a letter and make sure that we request the required relief in those pre-existing disturbed areas.
Yeah, Nick, I can send you the Appendix C waiver request, and then, obviously if it's too small, you can, put an add-on letter to it.
Sounds great.
Okay. So comments, questions from commission members, please.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ted.
I'm of two minds in that southwest corner with the Vernal Pool. I agree with you, Jeff, that removing all of that pavement is a wonderful situation and not the kind of thing we've seen in other farms, solar farms. At the same time, our commission over the past years has been very, 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 very firm about solar panels within buffer zones. And I fear bending that rule, what that could lead to in the future. So I haven't made up my mind about that corner, but I do have hesitations despite the pavement removal, which I very much appreciate.
Okay. Thanks, Ted. So Nick and Pedro, you guys are going to take a look at that for us?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Comments, questions from commission? Anyone else?
Yeah, there we go. This is Ed Harrow. I want to echo what Ted said. There's close to 2.5 acres of buffer zone, as I read those numbers, that are being disturbed or being worked within, and as others know, that I don't like that. And the other thing that concerns me, do we have any history of the quantity of land being denuded and left open in any other project in town that measures up to this? I'm very troubled with that whole concept, and I'm looking to see that this is not novel.
In terms of solar projects? Ed?
No, in terms of anything.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. It's going to take a little bit of research to go through it, but we can work with Don outside the the scope of this meeting to identify that.
Yeah. Okay.
Sites that you can take a look at.
My last comment is we oftentimes hear promises from people that they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and they don't follow through so well. And I'll close off at that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. All right. Anyone else from the commission? Okay. So I'll open up to the public comment right now for this project. I have a couple participants with their hands raised. So let me just scroll through here and just ask you, I think it's numbers. I don't have names. So just identify your name and address, please. So let's see. 508-625-2096. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ann Karnofsky, and I use the trails in the forest as well as the attached Deer Run Sanctuary of Halt. And I'm kind of upset that you as a commission assume that this will happen. This is the last expansive forest on the east side of Hopkins, associated with the forest itself and the Halt Sanctuary. It's highly used by the public. It does have important wildlife. There's a woman from Audubon who will spend a few nights in there and document the different kinds of birds that live there. And I imagine with 9 months of noise and construction, there won't be any birds left in there. What I want to say is I don't think the town should make another mistake, that the commission should make another mistake as they did with Legacy Farms, leading to expansion of the school system and numerous things. I think we should not all act as if this will happen, because there will be quite a defense by people who want to protect the forest as a whole. Also, I would urge you to make a trip to a similar site of Seaboard Solar, what they did in Oxford, Mass., to see what can happen. I don't believe solar belongs at all in a forest. And I should mention that the Attorney General's Division of Environmental Protection is going to do some research as to how many times this has happened in the state when these companies have been given a tax break in order to establish solar, and then they are destroying valuable forest and valuable land. And I have quite a good idea that the Attorney General will get involved here. I don't expect this to happen, so let's not act as though we're all mitigating and working to have it happen. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Karofsky. We appreciate your comments. Okay, Mr. Gasser has his hand raised. Let me find him here in the... Okay, Mr. Gasser, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Maury Gasser, 28 South Mill Street.
Good evening.
I'm speaking on behalf of HALT. I have a question for the commission. In that infiltration basin number 1 on the northeast side of the property, I'm wondering whether there is any possible screening that could be planted between that area and the trail that runs north and south next to it. It's going to be kind of close. It's a beautiful section of trail, and it's going to be one of the only sections of trail that may not be within sight of the solar array after this project is done. So it really would be nice if we could put some screening there. I understand it's within a buffer zone. So the question is for the commission, what is permitted there?
The northeast section. So, Pedro, can I just, ask you the question? Would you folks be willing to put some screening in that area?
Yeah, we're already looking into that. That's actually one of the comments that Maury told me before, and we're taking all the comments together for the landscaping. So we just make one iteration. So we'll look into that.
All right. So, Mr. Gasser, I'll just have you work with Pedro. I mean, I think the commission is amenable to that as long as the plantings, in the buffer zone are consistent with plantings that we typically like to see, that are conducive to, enhancing the habitat.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, do we have any other public comments?
Through the chair?
Yes.
Janine?
Janine, yeah.
Could it be confirmed that there is no tree clearing within the buffer zone?
For the whole project?
Yeah, it was my understanding there was no tree removal within the buffer zone. It was all outside.
No. There's definitely clearing within the buffer zone. All that disturbance is within the 50 to 100 foot zone. We have no new panels in newly disturbed areas within the buffer zone is what my intended statement was. Hope you understand that. So we, as we stated before, down at where the paved area is, we have a few proposed panels in that area, as it was previously or is currently paved. But any virgin buffer zone areas, we don't have any panels or fencing located in those areas.
Okay, but
there are some areas within 75 to 100 feet of the buffer zone that will have the gravel driveway located in them. And then we also have some clearing activities within 75 to 100 feet. A lot of this is well detailed on sheet C 6.1. If you have time to go through that, it kind of outlines, what's going to be gravel driveway disturbance, if there's any, what I call system array disturbance with, not even panels, just anything inside the driveway that's in the array area. And then I also break out what's going to be, grading and clearing work within the buffer zone.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair.
Mr. Robert, yep, Don, go ahead.
He was describing this section of the site plan, and yeah, it's color coded and it's breaking down. But I guess what I was trying to get the point is the commissioners usually said how much of this is previously disturbed. So it's broken down what the different components are. But like, is 9,402 square feet? Is that all previously disturbed, or is it only 8,000, 6,000? You know,
So, Don,
that's how it would get broken down typically for the commission's review.
No, and I'll provide that for you. If you go to the sheet before that, that has the existing conditions buffer zone disturbance breakdown.
Okay, good. All right.
That big table. So yeah, I'll put all that in spreadsheet or some type of letter for you guys, because there's a lot of breakdowns in areas and paved areas and cleared areas that have been disturbed, and there's undisturbed areas. So yeah, it's
if you can get that information to us, that'd be great.
Yep, not a problem. It's all there. I'll just tabulate it for you guys.
Okay, so Mr. Robertson, did you have a comment? Tom Robertson? Mr. Robertson?
Hello?
Yep. Did you have a comment, sir?
Yes, Tom Robertson. I'm from 16 Fawnridge Road and in a butter.
Okay.
And I had a number of questions that I needed independent help from Beta. Are they on the line?
Beta is not on the line, no.
Well, it's hard for me to provide some of my comments without them being able to, act as an independent resource to.
If you would like to send the commission the questions to Beta that you have, we can forward those and get the answers for you.
All right, so let me move on to my non-Beta related questions, just some general comments. One, I think one of the board members mentioned something about it being a novel situation, and I think that this property is particularly novel in a deforestation sense and a development sense, in that it has it's basically surrounded by these various wetland areas, and as far as studying and understanding what that means as far as protecting the environment and the intent of the Wetlands Protection Act, I'd like some inquiry made as to the impact in these cases. The birds and wildlife and animal and frogs and toads and owls and bats and whatever that are surrounded and in those wooded areas that are planned to be decimated deserve to be accounted for and understood what the impact is on their environment. The second thing is in terms of the study, that wildlife study that was done, I think that I heard in several cases a appropriate qualification that I think that this is not going to be an issue, or I think that they'll be able to migrate to other areas, and I don't know that the Conservation Commission wants to base their approval and the compliance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, which does specifically mandate that wildlife habitats should be protected, going within I think, and certainly not within I think, that is, or an assessment that is coming from a non-independent source. And the third thing that I wanted to underscore was the comment that one of the board members made about, denuding land and what that means as far as erosion, and, in several different areas of this permitting process, I have heard, assurances made, and then that the boards are making, decisions based upon these assurances. And one that I was particularly disturbed by one in one document was, it states, I quote, by minimizing ground disturbance and site grading within areas of the proposed solar arrays to maintain existing site slopes and drainage paths to the maximum extent practical. And you relying upon that wording and saying, okay, great, the maximum extent practical. And then I hear talking about a crew coming in to clear 30 acres of land and trees in 3 weeks. It's not practical to not be able to do that without significant grading and ground destruction. So I think that a study needs to be made, or someone needs to review the sites, other sites, as one of the participants suggested, to see what the methodology is. It has been in the past for these types of solar arrays, particularly in an area that is which has as many challenges with the boulders, the grading, and the religious and historic sites that are attempting to be preserved. If I was a tree removal company and I was hired to do a job in 3 weeks, believe me, it's not going to be wheelbarrows and pickaxes and handsaws. It's going to be bulldozers, cranes, and I'm going to grade where I need to grade to make it happen as quickly as possible. And I think it's naive of us to believe that the developer is going to be particular with their without destroying and leaving the ground barren and subject to many of the concerns that have been noted about erosion.
Okay. So we'll, as we stated, during the hearing, we'll take a look at a couple of the other projects with Mr. Harrow and the staff. Take a look at those and best practices to your third point. To your second point on the habitat evaluation, you're correct. The applicant's consultant did provide the habitat evaluation, but just so that, for a point of clarification, the commission has our consultant, Lucas Environmental, who works on behalf of the commission and the town, who has provided the peer review of that as well. So it's not an independent report that's prepared without review, on behalf of the commission. And to your first point with Beta, unfortunately they're not on the call right now, but if you want to submit your questions, again, we'll forward those to Beta on your behalf and get answers for you. Okay?
Well, and I would like to point out that both the peer review by Beta on the stormwater management and the other application items, and a peer review of the, I think it's the Goddard, is that the company?
Yes.
Study.
Yep.
They're based upon reviewing what is provided as facts and observations, and it's not independently determined. And so when you start with that, it's I make it akin to my editing my daughter's history paper. She'll give you the paper.
I think we got it.
I'll change prepositions. I will correct the spelling. But if she says the Magna Carta was signed on this date, that stays in there. And
okay, Beta and Lucas are, experts in their respective fields. So, we defer to their expertise. So I'll leave it at that and move on to our next comment. So thank you, Mr. Robertson. Okay, Gail, did you have a question? Gail? Uber? Yep, Ms. Over?
Okay. I just would like to know, we are at 17 Gale Ober, 17 Fawn Ridge Road in a butter. We are 100% against this project and the clear cutting of the land, obviously. I wonder where there was so much clear cutting for Legacy North and all of the animals have been displaced. Now we have the next corner. One corner is Legacy North and the next corner is this with 30 acres of clear cutting. Where do all of the animals go? But my biggest question after vetting Seaboard Solar are on our own and hearing and finding out how they do not complete projects and that there are projects such as what Ann Karnofsky had said in Oxford that are unfinished and things were not done as they were promised. Who is going to hold Seaboard Solar accountable with all of this devastation, and how are they held accountable by your by the Conservation Committee? How are they held accountable? And how will we know that they're going to do everything that they say they're going to do? Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Pedro, why don't I, I think a couple of people have raised some issues with previous projects you guys have worked on. Can you just speak to that? On behalf of Seaboard?
Sure, no problem. Personally, we have finished every single project that we have done in the past. I know that they mentioned the project in Oxford. We did have some construction issues with that project, but that contractor was terminated. The construction management from my company was terminated. We brought in a new construction company, a new project manager, and the project is finished in compliance. It just wanted to be interconnected, so I'm not sure where those information really. In regards to how all the promises that we're making, how we ensure that they're going to be made, simply they're part of the they're going to be part of the special permit. Some of them might be part of as a condition of the order of conditions. So there's no way that we can just walk away from the promises that we're making. There's no way that we just know when we plant the landscaping, it's going to be included in the plans. There's no way that we're not going to be donating the land or putting the current trails in open space, because it's going to be a condition in a special permit. And for the record, the trails, our property is private property. We understand that some neighbors are getting into a property and using the trails, and that's what we're putting into open space. So they can be properly maintained and they can be used for the public safely and maintained by a land trust. As of right now, it's private property. If something were to happen in a property, we're liable for it. So that's the main reason for doing the open space.
Okay, thank you. And, we also, just as another layer of oversight from the town perspective, as the project is completed, or as the project starts and is going through the process of being completed, we have the order of conditions which the applicant has to abide by, otherwise they can be subject to fines from the town. And in addition to that, we have, our staff and the town's consultants who are responsible for, periodic site visits, working with the applicant to make sure that the project's being constructed as it's proposed. So there are checks and balances in place, and assuming that the project gets approved, they will be held accountable from the town perspective. So, okay, we're gonna have to move on now. So we have to obviously continue this out, gentlemen. Our next hearing is the 26th. And then we have June 9th. So I'm not sure if 1 week is going to provide you with enough time to kind of tie out some of the remaining issues here if you want to go out to June 9th.
Yeah, let's set it for June 9th for now. That'll be better.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, Don, I'll give you a minute to close everything out. And then we can move on to the next agenda item.
And then through the chair, I'll step away and I will see everyone next week.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Appreciate it. So Anna, Ted just dropped off.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so this is...
Hello.
Yes?
Could I please ask you what Lucas Environmental, what are you using them for?
They, who am I speaking with?
This is Ann Karnowski. I'm familiar, I believe, with Lucas Environmental. Are they from Sutton, Mass?
I don't believe so, no. Matt, where's your company located out of?
We're based out of Quincy, Mass.
Quincy, Mass.
Are they primarily a lake maintenance and herbiciding company?
No, but we have to move on to the next hearing, so can you just contact our
Yeah,
office?
but can you just tell me? I don't believe that animal evaluations are their specialty.
Okay. I'm sorry, but we have to move on, so. Okay, 70 Spring Street, this is a continuation of a notice of intent. Don?
Folks able to see the site plan?
Yes. Do we have someone that is going to be joining us on this one, Don? Do you know?
Emails went out letting them know.
Do we have the applicant for 70 Spring Street with us? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Do we have the applicant for 70 Spring Street? Okay. I guess we'll move on, Don.
Okay.
Continue this out. Okay, so the next hearing is Hayes, 16 Downey Street. This is a continuation for a notice of intent for a single-family home.
Hi, good evening.
Hey, Mr. Marquardt, good evening.
We met with the board some time ago, back in March 10th.
Yes.
And this site consists of an existing, I guess maybe we should just back up just a little bit and sort of recap. We have had the flags determined, wetland delineation done by Northeast Ecological, which Matt has reviewed and agreed to. We have an existing dwelling down by the water, which we're going to convert into a shed. The existing deck portion is going to remain. There is no construction taking place, no excavation. We're utilizing existing foundation walls and then recreating a shed around those walls. We're proposing that house, which is that heavy black line right in the middle of the plan. The existing house is 10 feet off the water. The proposed house is to be 65, I believe, with the deck to be 54 off the wetland and further off the lake. We're proposing two driveways, one straight in on the right-hand side if you're at Downey Street looking at the property, straight in, and the left one is left side entry down underneath, garage under. Lot has town water, town sewer. We're proposing a series of retaining walls, some about 4, most of them are about 4 feet high. Dawn, if you could go to page 3.
Got it.
It's a little bit clearer. There we go. This is the proposed condition plan. No contours, no existing contours are shown. So you can, on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the shed. The water's to the extreme left, the lake. Retaining walls is like a hatched area. You see one about 30 feet off the water, one about 50 feet off the water, and then 3 up by the driveway on the left side for the garage under. We have a series of riprap aprons along that same driveway on the left-hand side, 3 foot wide on the left and 5 foot wide at the end of the driveway. We have 2 riprap aprons on the right-hand side at the right front corner of the proposed garage, and then down along the side of the house on the right-hand side. Those are 4 foot wide and 5 foot wide, with a river rock, a trap rock. We, on the bottom of the page, the hatched area, is an existing tree line. We're disturbing that area, which is 555 square feet. And we're proposing a wildflower meadow between the house and the proposed shed. Lost it. Here we go. We have also added a catch basin at the driveway on the right-hand side. Listening to one of the abutters last time, house number 14, which is to our right. There's runoff coming from Downey Street, some on his property, some on this property. So we're adding a catch basin to receive that water and then piping that down to a riprap apron down just to the east, north being straight up the page, just to the east of one of the corners of the shed. That discharge point would be about 52 feet from the water, from the wetland. And then lastly, we have increased our recharge units. We have 3 units on the left side of the dwelling and 3 on the right-hand side of the dwelling. Some of Matt's comments from last time on his letter was providing some clarity on those recharge units, riprap aprons. We had some spillway information that was required. The aprons, we had to move back the discharge point on that pipe from the catch basin outside the 50 foot.
So the calculations for the recharge units were provided, Mr. Marquardt?
We did not, the previous recharge was a very small unit. It was only 12 inches high. These are the largest they make. It's 30.5 inches high, 3 of them. So we have not done any calculations. We immediately went to the maximum size unit. Okay. And the bottom of the recharge is, we did not determine groundwater, but the bottom of the recharge is 8.6 above the elevation of the lake. So quite a bit above what we think is where water would be.
Okay. And then I think I saw in the file that you provided the applicant provided the information for the Chapter 91 license for the existing dock.
That's correct. Yep, he has filed that.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think from what it looks like to me, you addressed Matt's comments, but I won't speak for Matt. So Matt, any outstanding issues from your perspective? The PIB.
Sorry. The only one that I wasn't sure about was the question of the stump that's down by the bank. I can't remember if that had been.
Yeah, I think in a previous owner, I think Don had some experiences with that previous owner about the 2 trees down by the water, and then the 2 stumps down by the water were agreed to come out. Obviously based on the time of year, probably wouldn't address those now. It would be, here we go. Yep. There we go. Those are the 2 stumps, and then just in the background, there should be 2 pine trees that were agreed to be removed with a letter from, I think, from Dawn some time ago.
Yeah. Yep.
So, Don, in that previous discussion, was there some approval of how that bank was to be restored, or?
Yeah, for the removal of this, yeah, they would have to have no exposed soils and have this completely stabilized.
Okay, I just don't know if that needs to be part of this order, or if that's a separate issue that's...
Right, because obviously that letter went to the previous owner, so now we have a new owner. Is that how it's going, Dave?
Yes, yep. Renz is with us, I think. Renz, are you there?
So Dave, I mean, it sounds like he's not here. Can we just include a condition that, that area be stabilized?
Yes.
As part of this application, I think.
Yeah.
Just tying it into this would be easy, and making, addressing it as a separate issue.
Yeah. Does the board have a set timetable as to when they'd like to address that? Should that be at low water? Certainly.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Don, Matt, you have any comment there?
I'm sorry, I had it muted. This is Renz Hayes.
Oh, okay, Mr. Hayes, how are you?
I'm doing well. How's everyone?
Good, thank you. So I guess the question was this area that's, where the stump is, the first question would be, can we just include that as a condition under this application that be stabilized?
Yes, along with the other 2 trees that are going to be removed with their stumps also. And that would be taken care of once they bring the water of the lake down in the fall. Because the water is up to that level now, so it wouldn't be viable to do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, through the chair.
Yep.
I think if it's just a condition of the approval, it can be done anytime within, before requesting a certificate of compliance. I think I would recommend, though, that the applicant, either now or prior to the work, provide some description of exactly how that's going to be stabilized, just because it's truly the bank of the lake, and needs some specificity as to how that's going to be done so it's stable long term.
I think that's something that Mr. Marquardt can provide for you.
Yes, we can do that. Yep.
Okay.
Through the chair?
Yes, Don.
Yeah, when the previous owners had it, and I worked with them through the exemption request and through the chair and through the Concom, the 2 trees they wanted removed, the stumps were going to stay in place to naturally rot, so we wouldn't have them, grubbing out and having erosion issues. And then obviously this one had a tree attached to it, and they were supposed to remove the tree, and then because the stump was exposed, they were supposed to remove the stump or get it to the point where it was completely stabilized with no exposed soils. So those were in letter form through the exemption request, so those letters go with the property. So
are you suggesting that we continue to handle it under the exemption request letters as opposed to under the...
we could do it either way. It's just basically it was still supposed to be addressed.
Yeah, so I think
I don't know what the level of the lake is now, and if it's not, then they would have to stabilize this until they can have the appropriate time to remove it.
Yeah, so I think, if it's not going to happen until the fall, my sense is they could put some silt fence up around that just so that it doesn't erode out into the lake.
Right, or get, a bunch of mulch too to keep it stabilized as well. Yeah, so you could put erosion controls in the front and then cover all the exposed soils now.
So that it doesn't wash out.
Yep.
So I think that's a fairly straightforward temporary fix until you can permanently address it in the fall, Mr. Hayes?
Yep, no problem.
Okay. All right, so why don't we just include it under the order just to keep things tight, rather than having two separate documents floating around. Okay. All right, so questions or comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the audience? I'm sorry?
Through the chair, I'm sorry, I didn't unmute quick enough.
Yep.
Do we have details for that catch basin and the pipe? The one on the northern side?
Yes, page 3, a typical precast catch basin on the top right-hand corner with a 6-inch pipe open down towards the discharge. So, and there will be a sump with the catch basin.
What's the percent slope?
I don't know that. I do not.
It's just really steep. I'm really worried about blowing it out at the end and just having this horrible rill at the bottom.
Right.
It's really steep out there. I'm glad to see the sump, or else it wouldn't have any kind of.
Right. I don't have a slope.
Look at that. I'm afraid it might be too steep. I don't know if a flared end section with a little bit of riprap is going to be enough.
We could propose larger stones on the bottom of that versus a typical, 6-inch stone. Perhaps this is where we need to increase it to a 60 or 70, 80 pound stone.
Yeah, something, or you're just going to have something that when you watch it and have to improve it, you're really not going to know until you get like that first gully washer. But yeah, if now you're like speeding it down a pipe to the end, it'll.
Yeah, just like a hose. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll wash out the corner of your shed first, but it has a lot of potential of going straight down there.
Yeah, it makes sense. So Dave, I think you can just address this. We can vote on it, contingent upon you taking a look at that and just submitting a revised
detail on
the plan for us.
Yep.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Canaro, I have a question on the catch basin. The catch basin is on private property. Is there going to be a continuation of a procedure, annual procedure to clean it or something like that?
I'll let Renz speak to that. Renz?
It'll be a procedure as required to clean it. Once there's too much sediment in it, obviously you need to clean it out. So easy enough to be done.
Okay.
I'm not anticipating too much sediment to be getting in there.
Okay.
The chair?
Yes, Matt.
Just one other question on the meadow with wildflowers area. Just a clarification on, is that proposed as mitigation for work in the buffer zone? And if so, if the commission would want to require any, so typical 2-year monitoring to make sure that it is constructed and is successful to some standard.
Yeah, we're proposing that to offset the disturbance on the south end of the site, on the left side, and disturbance of those trees. So we're sort of compensating for that with the wildflowers. It's creating the meadow.
Okay, so typical mitigation will require some sort of monitoring condition the commission may want to consider.
Yeah, I think that would be a standard condition that we monitor that. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so I have a comment from the public. Mr. Benning? Go ahead.
Off mute there. Just had Chris Benning, 14 Downey Street, one of the abutters. Just a question about the area between the two ripraps, and I guess I'm just not familiar enough with this. In terms of the drainage off that, right now that the drainage kind of goes north to south as well as east to west into the lake, and just not wanting water in either one of our basements. Let's put it that way. Is there any way to, when does that get considered?
Dave, do you want to speak to that?
So you're talking about the area directly opposite the center of Renz's house. We have some of the contour going north and some of the contour going west. Most of the contour is going west. We're trying to get most of that water going through that riprap.
Yeah.
We're not intending to put any water towards your house. Don, sheet one, maybe two. Sheet two, if you could, Don. There you go. There's Chris's home there. So his driveway is up by the street. He has a series of walkways, and then down towards the lake is some lawns and some retaining wall. So our intention is to capture our own water and put it to the riprap apron, direct it towards the riprap apron.
Cool. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let me just make sure there's no other questions from the public. Okay, so I think no other questions or comments from the commission. So if we can, we'll do the roll call vote to close and approve the notice of intent, subject to the receipt of the updated detail and site plan within 2 weeks. Mr. Marquardt, is that?
Yep, that's
enough
perfect.
time?
Yep.
Okay, so if I can get a motion, please.
So moved, Janine.
So the motion from Janine and a second.
I'll second, Melissa.
Okay, and we'll do the roll call vote. So Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and it's an aye for Jeff. So the motion passes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You're welcome. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Don, I'll give you a minute to close that out. Okay, next we have REC Hopkins, 0 Chamberlain Street, and 0 Wayland Road. This is a continuation of an amended notice of intent for the western portion of the Chamberlain Street roadway.
Good evening. For the record, John Cusick with Bowler Engineering.
Good evening, Mr. Cusick.
Hello. I have Kathy Sherry here as well, and Scott Goddard and Mark Arnold. We were before the commission pre-COVID. I don't quite remember the date, and at that point we went into detail and just reviewed the proposal. It is an amendment, essentially, just provides some follow-up details for the culvert and the bridge crossing. That was part of the approval that we received. So at that meeting, we went through the full proposal, went out for peer review, and had a few rounds of comments from your peer reviewers, Lucas and Beta. I believe we've addressed all of the comments to the resubmittals. The last comment letter that we received and needed to respond to was one from Beta. Came in on 5/14, and I think we got everything back on the 18th. That particular comment letter was very minor. I think prior to that, we'd addressed the majority of the issues. There were a couple of housekeeping items that they commented on. essentially all related to the structure, not really any wetland type issues, but just had to do with a curbing type and offsets to walls, stationing, and so on and so forth. Very, very minor. We've sent that back, essentially agreeing to all of their comments and submitted the revised plans for the record with that. So I'd be happy to go into any more details, but essentially it's really structural comments from Beta that we had addressed.
Right. So, yep, I think we agree with you. So we just touch base with Beta to find out where they are with their review, Mr. Cusack. And they are not quite done with it. They're, I think, 95% there. They basically just let us know that it didn't look like there were any showstoppers at this point. They just had a couple T's to cross and I's to dot. So that's where we are with Beta at this point. So unfortunately they weren't able to get this complete for tonight's meeting. But, as I said, I think we're just about there. In terms of Lucas's review, Matt, I'll just open it up to you to make sure that, your issues have been resolved. See if you got any ongoing questions or comments.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, everything's been addressed, and the wetland and stream restoration plan is adequate to go forward for construction.
Okay, perfect. Any questions or comments from the commission members? Any questions or comments from the audience?
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, if I could make a request, if the board or the commission would entertain. Essentially, if we're all set with the Lucas comments, and it was just some housekeeping items from the Beta standpoint. I think on our end we feel totally comfortable that we're able to get them whatever they might come up with. I thought everything was all set. So on our end, there's really no issue with getting them what would be needed. Would the commission entertain offering an approval just contingent upon addressing all of their comments, just to avoid a hearing and hopefully move
Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. Carrie, Melissa, how do you feel about it?
This is Melissa. I'm fine with that.
Carrie?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think that makes sense. I agree. The issues outstanding with Beta are minor, and they've messaged to us that, it looks good. They just had a couple things to tie out. So, having said that, if I can get a motion to close and approve the amended notice of intent for RAC Hopkins, 0 Chamberlain, 0 Wayland.
This is Melissa. I'll make the motion.
And a second, please.
Second, Janine.
Okay, and we'll do the roll call. So Melissa?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
And it's an aye for Jeff. So the motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this is Scott. Could I ask a quick question as a follow-up to that now that the amendment is issued? Do you believe, Matt, I guess it's similar to Matt and Dawn, that an additional pre-construction meeting or additional meeting on site would be helpful or even needed under the order to further proceed with the work? The order calls for a pre-construction meeting. We've had a number of meetings, but I'm not quite sure any of those have fully satisfied the pre-construction meeting. Matt and Dawn, would it be helpful for us to schedule that?
I think it wouldn't hurt just to kind of get everybody reset, seeing how it's kind of been dormant for a while, especially with regard to the wetland mitigation work, if that's planned to go forward this spring.
Okay, that'd be great. So I'll shoot an email then, Matt, to you and Don, and we can schedule something. That sound good?
Yep.
All right, perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. We appreciate it.
Right.
Okay. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Okay, so Don was, I think we had one more work session item, which was the Lucas Environmental contract.
Yes. I just wanted to double back. It was 188-1700 at 70 Spring Street that did not chime in.
No.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I did send, and I do see me emailing them the agenda this Thursday, May 14th. So their contact was Peter Bemis, and yes,
Yeah, he's not up there. He's not on the list, Don. So I think we just continue out to the next meeting.
All right. Okay. I will hopefully get back to him and see what happens there. I was just hoping it wasn't anything mechanical, like he was trying to get in and he couldn't. So, all right.
No, I didn't. I mean, unless he didn't show up on my screen as trying to get in or in the waiting room or anything. So
Okay.
they may have just forgot about it. I don't know.
All right. So let's go back to work session. Right here. I will share my screen again. Just get that Word document opened. And let's see. Yep. So basically, we'd looking for FY this coming July. I think those are the dates. This would go through June 30th, and for the past 2 years, Lucas has given us a rate of 85. So now they would be the only change to this would be seeking $90 instead of the 85 that we've had for the past 2 years. And
Okay.
yep, this would be July 1st through June 30th, 2021. 1 year.
So the previous one was for 2 years?
No, we've always had a yearly contract, and
Oh,
the past 2 years. So the past 2 years they've been at 85, and then for this coming year, July 1st, they'd be seeking 90 for cost of living adjustments.
Yep, I'm fine with that. Is everyone else?
It's fine with me, Jeff.
Okay.
Keep hitting the wrong button. Yes, that's good.
All right. So Don, is it typical for us? I thought we used to do this like every 2 years.
No, we've been.
It was always annually?
No, yeah, it's an annual. Yep.
Yeah, I guess we have to because of the town budget, right?
And we usually do it at the near the end of June, but he'd given it to me ahead of time, so I figured, I'd just get it on the agenda as soon as I could.
Yeah, no, I think that makes, I guess because of the municipal finance regulations or whatever, we have to do it yearly, right? Is that the?
Yeah, basically, because
right.
because these would typically not exceed the $50,000
Right.
limit, where you'd be going out to bid,
Right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, if I get a motion to approve the Lucas Environmental Consulting Agreement for the next fiscal year.
This is Ed, so moved.
In a second.
Melissa, I'll second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and it's an aye for Jeff. All right. I think we're good. Anything else done?
I'm not aware of any. Looks like we hit everything on the agenda, except for that one person.
We didn't have any other, yeah, I think we're good. Okay.
So for the 26th, we'd be bumping up on the agenda. We got number 5 struck out, so we would move them up to number 1. And then we had continued Wall Street, the 6 public hearings. So he would come in behind them, and then I'm not sure if we were then ready to advertise any of these new NOIs that we have. Should I just address like maybe the chair and the vice chairs offline? So I didn't mean to throw this at you, because what would happen tonight, and obviously we'd have to continue 1700 after Mr. Petrosi's. So it's going to get it'd be a kind of close to a full.
Yeah, let's talk about it offline, Don, because we have the Lake Maspinock, which is going to be a long one.
Right.
Petrosi, we have Petrosi, then we have a couple other ones.
6, yeah. So you're looking at, the lake is 1, his 6, Harding is 7. You know, so
I'm just thinking with the lake, there's going to be a lot of public participation, so it might be too much to try to.
And actually, now that I think of it, because of the 26th, we couldn't bring any of the new ones on because we'd have to run the legal ad. So we'd be looking at the new ones either in the June 9th or the June 23rd. So, yeah, we can work offline on how you want to phase those in.
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking June 9th, but we can talk about it offline.
All right.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Hey, Jeff?
Yes?
You're going to ask for a motion to adjourn?
Oh, we need the motion to adjourn. Sorry.
I thought I was asleep.
In a second.
So move. Second.
All right, Melissa.
Aye.
Janine.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
And it's an aye for Jeff. Thank you, Ed.
Okay, now I can't let you go.